Check 1 2, mic check, mic check. Never gonna get paid waiting on a mic check. Hey guys, I'm Rob with Robert Hand Photography. Today we're actually going to be talking about best practices for YoloBox and live streaming. Now, these are my best practices specifically aimed to help a new user get started. A new user, not just with YoloBox, but a new user in live streaming in general. Cell phones and even YoloBox and other encoder decks have made it very simple to live stream, where lots of people just think it's as easy as plug and play. And for the most part it is. However, these tips that we're going to go over today are going to help new users understand the network, specifically with using YoloBox. So let's jump right into it. As a coffee cup kind of conversation, this whole thing is going to ramble and meander. I do have a table of contents I'll outline in a second. But if you're a too long didn't watch type of person, skip this video, go away. I don't want to talk to you because this isn't that kind of video. You can watch other videos that just get to the nitty-gritty of it real quick. In this video, my attempt is to explain the processes that I'm doing and the steps that I'm taking in order to achieve the result that hopefully will help you, and it's done from a new user perspective, which means I might go into more detail than an experienced pro needs. With that out of the way, one final thing is, hey, support me with a cup of coffee through PayPal or using those Amazon links down below. This video is not sponsored. I make no money off of it. So if you find this helpful, consider watching it all the way through, leaving a comment, buying something from the Amazon links, and sending me coffee through PayPal. I truly appreciate it. We've got some things to go over. We're going to talk about 3 different categories and a bonus category at the end of contracting. The first category is live streaming, where we're going to talk about network speed, encoding rate, and unlimited data. This pertains to SIM cards specifically, and it will help new users understand what's happening behind the scenes. The next part we're going to talk about is audio. I want to talk about unity gain, the audio signals from the first microphone all the way going into a YoloBox and out to YouTube, that entire audio chain. And we're going to talk about microphone placement. Finally, we're going to talk about video, specifically low bitrate haze, ABR, I'll tell you what that is later, and sensor size and low light, and why you might choose different cameras for different tools or operations. And bonus contracting. I'm going to talk with you about network reliability, how we can talk about that in our contracts to get you out of hot water, how to upsell the recordings of your videos that you should be doing using ABR. We're going to come to that a lot, and because ABR, CYA, okay? And then we're going to talk about a shot list. Now I've got shot lists right here. People ask me all the time for my photo and video shot list. I will talk about these later, but I will not give you mine. It's not because I don't want to be helpful. I'm making this video for you, right? It's because if you can't think hard enough about live streaming to create a shot list and checklist for your business, then you have not thought about it diligently enough to do it to provide a good service to your customer, which could get you in hot water. Live streaming, network reliability, all of that. Let's talk about the equipment that we've got today. I'm using YoloBox in a director's monitor kind of configuration. This is YoloBox Pro. I've got it set up with a handle. It's no big deal. You can find an L bracket handle anywhere, and a tripod. On the back of the L bracket, I have a wireless video transmitter. It's transmitting back there to the TV so that you can see. Hopefully, a lot of what we're showing you're going to be able to see. I've crushed the aperture down to f22 over here and brought in a lot of extra light. This will allow me to share with you how I'm doing what I'm doing, but more importantly, this is how I might use this on set with a team that's working when I'm doing a live stream for a live broadcast. And I might have the program director or whoever I'm working with there in order to view this or monitor this out because they want to see. It works very well. Over here we've got a camera like one you might use. This is an X1500 or 2000 or CX10. In this configuration with the top handle, I generally run all of my audio in through the XLR inputs on my main camera, generally a camcorder, but sometimes a mirrorless camera. When running audio, I use wireless audio like Sennheiser XSWDs. This happens to be a lavalier set, which has the headphone jack, but also right here I have an XLR out. In any way you want to use it, you can. You can use it with a microphone. This is the ME4 Mark II or ME2 Mark II right here. And then you may not be able to see it, but this little lavalier right here is connected to a Kumika Boom XD. I would not suggest buying the Kumikas. I use it because I have it and I bought it. If you're going to get one, this is not an endorsement of any of this equipment, by the way. This is what I'm using to make this. If you want to know my true opinions on all this equipment, I have made YouTube videos about them. And although I'm showing some stuff here, there is gear that you're seeing here, not YoloBox, but there is gear and cameras that you're seeing here that I would not recommend you purchase. After hundreds of hours of using them, I can tell you why, but that's a different video. And then I've got some audio recorders. I've got a Zoom field recorder. This is the H6. Great recorder, 4 inputs, 2 additional if you use the capsule, microphones on board. It works well. These are all the different types of tools that you will use, but it doesn't include any of the grip gear, the stands, the lights, and stuff like that. You will need those as well. So a good tripod with a fluid head is very important. Even a friction head that tries to mimic a fluid head won't give you the smoothest pans when you begin and end your pan, even if you set your drag to low. All of these things combined together give you the capability to be tasked for a specific job. And that's what you need to think about your business. Just one camera is truly not enough to live stream any kind of corporate event. You may live stream a funeral and you may live stream a wedding, but it is not the place to begin your journey. You're really going to want 2 cameras. 2 cameras will give you the ability to provide something that any of your competitors don't have, and that's going to be the wow factor of 2 separate angles. And if you use a camera on a gimbal with that Vaxis transmitter, then you can have a moving camera and a static camera. It's really cool. Let's get right into live streaming. Let's talk about network speed. I'm going to do this a couple different ways, but when we're at this page right here, as you can see back there, we can actually come over here into our menu and check out our network speed test. Now, I'm on Wi-Fi at my house this second, but once the speed test pops up, you're going to see that we've got some result in the background. And right now, it's not displaying correctly for whatever reason. But as it begins the test and continues the test, it will come up with some kind of result. Network speed is very important. The thing you need to know about network speed is you're not looking for the download speed. We're sending data. We're looking for the upload speed. What you want to find is that you have an upload speed that is at least as high as your encoding speed. YoloBox allows for encoding on live stream constant bit rate up to 8,000 kilobits. That's 8 megabits per second. Most cameras will record at around 100 megabits per second. So it's basically a 1/12 of the size, right? So what we need to know about our network then is what kind of speed that we're getting up. In this case, the download speed, as you can see back there, is 12 megabits per second. This is pretty bad, and it probably has to do with, who knows, I'm right by an airport. My upload speed looks like it's hovering around 10 megabits per second right now, which is pretty good, but it's not the best either. You might think with a 10 megabit upload speed that I'd be able to come over to YoloBox and just use an encoding setting of 8 megabits or 8,000 kilobits, but that wouldn't be the case. I'm going to go into monitor mode on YoloBox. I'm opening this. We're going to actually talk about encoding settings. We just did our test. I would suggest you do it 2 or 3 times depending on where you are. But when we get there, let's pretend that 10 megabits per second was our actual average after 3 tests in the area that you're going. You might say, that's great. I can do, no problem. I can do 8 kilobits per second. If you chose to use 8 kilobits or 8 megabits per second as your upload speed for your encoding, you would run into an issue. And the issue would be that you would be taxing the network that you're on under 80% load, which means that the network's only got about a variability of 20%. That network jitter, that's a very important thing. That's going to tell you a little bit about your signal and about the network's reliability. You might find that trying to upload or trying to stream and encode at 8 megabits per second on a 10 megabit connection will choke you out. I suggest half. Use half the bandwidth of your upload speed. Let me share with you something else. Most SIM cards are only going to upload around 10 megabits, regardless of if they're 4G LTE or 5G. Now there's high band, mid band, low band, 5G, all that other stuff. There's a lot of network things that come into play here. But the reality is none of it matters if you look at the network that you're using and check the data speed. If you take half of what you're sending, then you can be relatively confident that you're going to be able to stream at that bit rate. In this case, I was uploading at 10 megabits per second. For me to have a fair and comfortable 1080p stream, I would choose 5,000 kilobits per second. I want to talk a little bit about streaming rates, and streaming rates as they apply to the best practices on the platform. If you did not know, a non-business page cannot stream at 1080p on Facebook. If you didn't know, now you know. There's a lot of reasons why, and this video will not cover them. I would suggest you learn about the streaming network of Facebook on Facebook's wiki pages. Go find out about Facebook through their own live event streaming pages. If you have a business page, you can apply for and be approved for an account that allows 1080p streaming. which means if you have ever tried to stream on Facebook and wondered why you can't stream higher than 720, and sometimes even only 540, now you know. For YouTube, they suggest that a 1080p stream to have the best bitrate is going to be between 2 to 5 megabits or 5,000 kilobits per second upload. Well, I have found that if you're streaming with video, you can get something called low bitrate haze. We're going to talk about that later. But for now, in this instance, at 5 kilobits per second, 5 megabits per second upload, I would probably be happy streaming 1080p. But if I was around the 200 or 2000 or 3000, 2 megabits or 3 megabits per second range in 1080p, I wouldn't at all. I'd switch to 720p encoding on YoloBox. There's also a question about CBR versus CQ versus VBR. Constant bit rate is CBR. It's going to stream at one solid bit rate. It's going to try to maintain whatever you choose without any frames dropping and without the bit rate dropping. When the network becomes stressed, it's going to start struggling. It's going to choke out, and you might see a lot of dropped frames. VBR is the same thing. It's going to try to maintain your frame rate, except it's going to vary the bit rate in order to be able to stream properly. So instead of getting drop frames, your stream may drop its resolution quality. It may go up and down depending on the network load. Constant quality is something kind of in between. This is an algorithm that the team over at YoloLive, they're mad scientists, so to speak, came up with this, and it's kind of an in-between to both. And I've found that I like constant quality more than variable bit rate. I like CBR, constant bit rate, the best, but when I'm in data-starved areas, constant quality does very well. I've made videos about constant quality. You can read about constant quality. This is a video that's instructing you. I'm telling you, if you don't know, go know. Find out about these things if they don't make sense to you. Generally speaking, though, your best results will be with constant bit rate, which is where the test that we just talked about and making sure that you're using about 50% of your network to give your network room to breathe is so important. Unlimited data. Let's talk about that for a second. The network that you have your SIM card with does not expect you to be a live stream on location production company. If they did, they'd have higher rates. They expect you to be a regular person that's out there, just a regular old everyday normie that's going to live stream an event here or there at a concert or something, yada yada. Maybe use it for your church from your iPhone once or twice. As such, the live streaming and upload rates are capped on all of them, which is why most networks will cap you at 10 megabits per second upload. That's just what you'll see. Even if, like, out here on 5G LTE, I can get 100 megabits per second download and I'll still be capped at 10 megabits per second upload. I can get 50 megabits per second download on 4G LTE and still be capped around 10. It's just the way that it works. More importantly, YoloBox will only use the data that it receives, and the network thinks that it's a tablet. So when the network sees it doing something, unlimited data on most networks mean that the data is going to be streaming in 480. Well, if you check your contract, you'll see that 480 is much less, 480p, not 1080p, not 720p, not 4K, 480p. Like T-Mobile, that is the free unlimited data that you'll get. Well, you're going to need an HD upgrade package because that equates not only to downloads streaming, but upload streaming, right? So you need to check and read your contract and find a data package that works for you. Finally, if you're streaming and it's been great, and then one day you wake up and your stream isn't looking so great and you're using a SIM card, it's quite likely not YoloBox. You may have hit a data cap, and even the unlimited plans say that if you're streaming more than the top 3% of the users, you will be capped and data throttled. The fact that I'm telling you this means that you, especially if this is the first time hearing about it, don't know enough about what you're doing yet to have learned through experience what you're doing. Take my advice, go read about it, find out about it, research it, so you'll avoid the problems that many people encounter. Remember, the network not working is not a YoloBox problem, it's not a camera problem, it's not even a network problem. It's a you problem if you didn't know about that ahead of time. We got to swallow the strong pill of, hey, I don't know what I don't know, which means I need to know. You got to get good, my friends. I hope you get good. When I talk to you, you might find that this video I'm talking directly to you, and I am. I'm talking to you just like my team and I talk to one another. When we're out there, we have no egos, right? I have been corrected by my team by trying to take a photo or doing something wrong just as I have corrected them. And it needs to be an on-the-spot correction, just like being in the military. My point that I'm making here is you can't have an ego about it. Live streaming's tough. If this is new to you, it's not talking down to you, get good. Okay, next thing, audio, unity gain. In your audio chain, every piece of equipment in between the destination, the content delivery network, and the microphone is a piece in the audio chain. And you need to make sure that each one of those pieces is set correctly, set to unity. What that means is that from your microphone to its transmitter, to the receiver, to the device that the receiver went into, to the device that went into, like a soundboard, to the YoloBox, and then from YoloBox streaming out to the content delivery network, all of those have to be set to unity. That means that if your microphone is too hot and your soundboard is too low, you're going to have audio issues. You need to set your microphone to audio, to unity, which is 0 decibels, or whatever it is, so that whatever the gain is required on the microphone transmitter to either make it softer or hotter to match the gain you want to use on your audio board where it's coming in, your soundboard. When those two are set to unity and you move through up the chain, you'll know that you're setting unity on the next device. In my instance, I use a microphone into a soundboard, into a camera, into YoloBox. So I need to make sure that my microphone is set to unity to the soundboard. So the soundboard is set to unity to my HDMI on my camera. My HDMI is set to unity to the audio interface on YoloBox. Okay, now on YoloBox we can easily get there just by going to our different programs. So I'm going to go over here and just select a video source, an SD card video in this instance. Okay, so now we've got that. I'm also going to go ahead and turn my audio off for my program out so that we don't hear any sounds. But this video that's playing in the background is one of the videos that I play wherever I go. In order to have something as my pre-credit roll or my after-credit roll, I'll share all of that with you later. In any event, when I come over here to the audio channel, you're going to see that you have the ability to set the different gain on the channel. You can set it up or down. That's what you're going to be adjusting in order to create a unity gain in that signal chain. So each one of those, you're going to adjust your levels. So from the microphone, I might adjust my level into here. Into here, I might adjust my gain out to, this could be the soundboard in this instance, to my camera. From my camera, I'm going to adjust the gain so that it goes into YoloBox. I'm going to YoloBox, I'm going to unity gain, so that now the signal is the same all the way through. The only part of the signal chain I can't control is whatever YouTube does to the audio. And YouTube does what's called normalization. YouTube will apply a different amount of gain in order to bring all of the volume up to a certain loudness level, and it may even apply wind noise or noise reduction in order to help clean the audio up for really bad audio that's got to be boosted or very distorted audio. You have to know that. So if you give YouTube the correct signal at first, then you will not have any issues with your audio. This is another learning moment. If you've ever had a problem with YoloBox and you said, oh, the audio is bad, if you haven't done this process, and then if you haven't read the best practices on YouTube about streaming or whatever other network you have, well, now you know. Microphone placement is more important than anything else. You could have a great microphone in the background and a cheap lavalier in the foreground, and the one closest to the source of audio will be the best. Your microphone placement will also be important based on how much screaming. I go to these church services where these girls get up there and they start preaching and they're screaming. I don't know if they think they're singing or dancing sometimes. I have no idea. But I don't like to be yelled at church. Most people don't. But sometimes people get into it and the Spirit just moves them. Well, you got to be aware of that. Microphone placement is very helpful. Generally a lavalier lower down than what I've got, clipped onto someone's shirt or lapel, will be helpful in those kind of instances. But having multiple microphones set up is very important. You will notice that I have two microphones set up right here. I've got this microphone, and then I actually have the XLR audio out that I would use in this case from YoloBox. Boom. In this instance, I would set all my channels to the regular channel right there, right? And if the person started screaming, I might use my onboard mic. Now, we just said that microphone far away is worse than a microphone close up. Yes, but a microphone far away that's clear is better than distorted audio close up. So you have to understand, and those are things that I will consciously switch between while I'm working. That's not a one and done. I'm constantly monitoring those things. If you have any other questions about microphone placement and things like that, just watch some videos. The #1 person on YouTube I would suggest is Curtis Judd. Watch, learn, teach. Let's go to video. We talked about a couple things, right? We talked about constant quality and all that stuff. The reason that's important is because we've got things like low bitrate haze. Some people, myself included, may have noticed that sometimes your video just looks muddy, loss of clarity, and the colors shift. That is low bitrate haze. Earlier when we were talking about low bitrate haze, we were talking about constant quality and all these other tests that we can do. And that's extraordinarily important because low bitrate haze comes into play here. So the lowest chance of having low bitrate haze is when you have a high bitrate and constant bitrate. So the best quality setting you can have for YoloBox is constant bitrate at the highest it allows for streaming, which currently is only 8 kilobits per second, 8 megabits. I can stream from my X2000 right here directly from the camera. It's got an RTMP streaming server, live streaming server built into it, up to 40 megabits per second. That's 5 times greater than YoloBox. But I can't switch or do anything with it. And to have that ability, you'd have to have a network, an infrastructure. And if you were on location for news teams and live reporting like this camera is designed for in this CX10 configuration, well, you'd have a satellite uplink. The fact that you and I don't have a satellite uplink means that most likely we aren't going to even have access to SIM cards, mobile networks that will give us an upload rate faster without paying a whole lot of money. So this is built with a consumer spec in mind. That's why we have a cap at 8 megabits. Interesting thing about 8 megabits though, it's 3 megabits higher than YouTube suggests for its highest 1080p quality. Wow, it's like the team at YoloBox actually thought about this to give us leeway. The reason that that's important is that 3 megabits higher than the highest quality for streaming in 1080p, obviously you could stream as high as you want, but the one that's currently suggested on YouTube is because it gives us room to get away from low bitrate haze and have crystal clear video. Well, guess what? That's what I do all the time. I have crystal clear video. I found that out because I watched and learned through YouTube what they suggest for their different bit rates and their different resolutions. So if I can't stream between 3 and 4 megabits per second, which is 3 or 4,000 kilobits per second at 1080p, I drop down to 720p. Oh yeah. And then I'll stream at 4 kilobits per second, 4 megabits per second at 720 and have crystal clear video at 720. Sure, it's not the same resolution, but a crystal clear 720p stream always looks better than a muddy 1080p stream. Clients love it. 720 is still high definition, although it's not full high definition. You can split those hairs in your contract. That's something else that we'll talk about. But understanding when to do those, come back to our first test involved in the whole thing, the network speed test. Moving on, we're going to talk about ABR. ABR stands for always be recording. My team and I ABR all the time. We say it. Hey Bill, ABR CYA. That's it. I get checked all the time by my team. They come behind me. Bill, recently, on the live stream I did over the weekend, came behind me as we started and he said, hey Rob, ABR? I said, nope. We had already begun the live stream and he went and clicked all of it. I forgot. I was running 2 cameras. I forgot. And he was on it. So our team constantly checks one another. That's because we don't have an ego. I own the company. I pay his paycheck. And he ABRC'd my A, covered my ass, right? And the reason that's important is because later we're going to talk about upselling the live stream recording as a cinematic download, right? And this is very important. I only keep the live streams up under a contract period of term, and then I take them down. I own all the media, which means if they want it later, they have to purchase it again, or they purchase it up front. What's built into the contract? So we ought to always be recording because it will cover our butts, CYA, in order to make sure that if this happens, the stream drops, we've got a resolution. We're going to get into that in the bonus section of contracting in just a moment. But I want to talk about sensor size and low rate or low light as it relates to always be recording. Low bitrate haze, something that we suffer from, specifically when you're using a bitrate lower than the minimum or approaching the minimum required for the resolution you're trying to stream, and when specifically encountered on a data-starved or a network that's choked with throughput, will come into play by how much light you have in there. Just adding extra light can help diminish the effects of low bitrate haze because the camera doesn't have to work as hard. Well, maybe not the camera. The processor and encoder doesn't have to work so hard in order to flesh out those details. When the encoder has to work hard to encode the camera, and the fine details are lost. So adding light, right, is very helpful in those instances, right? So you should have light as a setup for part of your event. Light doesn't mean for the whole area. Light only means for the stage area, right? So if you need to set up lights ahead of time and then turn them on if the lighting environment changes, or better yet, keep them on the whole time, that's great. And if you do, use lights that actually have an app for your phone, right, so that you can control them from your phone or wirelessly. It'd be very helpful. Another way to get around low bitrate haze is by using cameras with larger sensors that resolve more detail in low light in the first place. But that is a choice that you have to make. For example, this camera has a very small sensor. It's a 1/2.5 inch. Well, it's about 7 times smaller than the one in this Panasonic S5 that's recording here. And it's about 3 times smaller than the one in the HCX1 over there. And it's about 5 times smaller than a Micro Four Thirds camera, so the GH6. Well, why would I use it then? It sounds like it would be terrible. Well, no, again, this comes to understanding your gear. It's got an equivalent in full frame to a 600mm zoom, which means I can be way far away and get in nice and close. Well, it's perfect for outdoors. It's not great for indoors. So when I use this indoors, I always use light, extra light. However, this camera is also good for sunsets and things like that. You have to understand your environment. That's a completely other video. You have to understand your environment. You have to understand your tools in order to get the best out of them. It's not about one thing doing one job or all the jobs well. It's about finding tools that do specific jobs very well and then can do other jobs generally well. And that's going to be it for my conversation going on to live streaming, audio, and video. I want to now talk about contracting. Okay, network reliability is important. We've got a shot list right here, right? We're going to talk about shot lists. This one is specific to video, right? And it has how I do the entire thing. In there, I have 3 spots where I will do different timed network tests from YoloBox prior to the live stream, as well as different network tests during the live stream from a different device on the same network, usually my cell phone, generally using speed tests. It's talked about in the contract. Network reliability is never something I have paid for or had to return money for. I don't return money for network reliability. Clients that hire the service for Robert Hand Photography provide on-location live event broadcasting sign a waiver in there that the network reliability is such and that we are using these connections in order to stream. There's no shame in telling people that you are to be streaming multi-camera simulcast on multiple networks, YouTube and Facebook, through a cellular network. Sounds great. They understand that you're only ever going to be as reliable as the network is. Those speed test checks are very important in order to prove reliability should there be an issue if the live stream goes out and they want to sue you later for it or request money back. The second thing is I never have a problem restarting YoloBox if YoloBox happens to have a problem during a live stream, and it does sometimes. There are issues. I was at the wedding on day 1. It was not the wedding, but I had a 3-day conference. Each day was almost 6 hours of live streaming, and at one point in time on the first day, I paused YoloBox, I paused the stream, and they had a 90-minute break. When I came back, the microphone inputs didn't work because YoloBox had lost synchronization with the servers, which meant that I had to restart YoloBox. I had no problem, right? YoloBox remembers. If you have multiple YoloBox, you create an event on one, it will create that event on all of them. The reality is I could have just switched everything over to my other YoloBox and continued and not had a problem. But that would have required like moving camera and feeds independently, and I just wanted to reset it. That felt to me at the time quicker. But having those steps built in and explained in the contract are very important. That's the way I never pay for network reliability. The next thing is I always upsell my video, right? I'm recording in 6K, 4K, whatever I'm recording it on the cameras at the same time. ADR, always be recording. If you're not pressing the record button, I'm telling you frankly, you are making a huge mistake. I would not hire you to work my business as a contractor if you didn't hit that record button every time. It makes no sense not to hit it. You worry about storage, SD cards, unlimited recording. It makes no sense. Because in the event that the live stream goes out and it's a wedding, you have a high resolution recording to give them of it. In the event that your $10,000 corporate client hires you to do their event and they're live streaming it, right? And they haven't hired you to make production videos later. They just want it live streamed from 2 separate locations. Yeah, I've done that. Well, guess what? You think I'm not recording in all those locations? I got another team there. They better be recording while we're talking. They're recording. If the live stream goes out, there's $10,000 on the line, and that's not a network reliability issue. That's a due diligence issue. I make sure that I'm always recording because I'm going to sell that post-production later. I'm going to sell that recording to them later. Their live stream will have a period of time which I will allow it to stay up, but I will always have that recorded media, and that media has a price. So, if they chose not to purchase the live stream and the cinematic recording or the video afterwards, they didn't buy that 4K media, no problem. If the live stream goes out, they already have a price in the contract of what that media is worth, usually very high. And now I can say to them that they can have that back or have a refund to this percentage based on how much was lost, which they want. Which one do you think they want? If I messed up or the network dropped or something like that, the bride wants the wedding footage. She doesn't want a refund on her live stream, right? I have always used this as a method in order to show due diligence that I'm recording and providing a service to them, even in the event of a catastrophe. If you're not pushing that record button, quite frankly, you're doing it wrong. And lastly, we're going to talk about this shot list once again. If you haven't thought about these things that we're talking about on the shot list, and this is a shot list specifically for a bride and groom, a wedding, it has everything in there from the cutaways. I'm telling my team how to do the cutaways, how to pick the spots. So when they go into any location, they have their gear checklist on the back, they have their pre-ceremony shot list, the things I want so that I can make the video that I need to make afterwards. I check these every time I go out. Even me. I use them all the time. If you are ever in a position where you're not using a shot list, man, you're wrong. You are just wrong. Because it doesn't matter how good your brain is, there are always times where you can forget something. A shot list will help you maintain consistency across all your products in your brand. It'll make sure that you consistently get the same kind of footage that you have built a reputation for achieving. People will notice it. When you're out there checking on a checklist, it's like you're inspecting your gear, you're looking, you're talking. You don't look stupid when you're doing that. You look prepared. I got a problem with people personally that when they show up to an event, I hire contractors from time to time to help me because I have lots of stuff. And if I ever see somebody sitting there like, I saw a photographer the other weekend, he was like doing his nails beside me. I fired him on the spot. He's a contractor. I paid him up to his day rate at that point and told him to go home. I will never hire him again. Right, that was it. And his day rate, because I told him to go home picking his nails, that was it. The look that the client sees when you're back slack, you're on the block, wrong answer. But you know what they see when they see you doing this? Checking a shot list, they're like, oh, it's prepared. That guy's gone. He'll never work for me again. That's it. It's just that simple. Right? And I don't ever hire an employee. I wouldn't suggest you do the same. I would suggest that you hire contractors, people that are already trained to do the job. They have a contract with you. If they can't fulfill it, terminate them, move on to the next candidate. Grow your business through quality, through standards, and through consistency. It all starts with the coffee cup conversation we did right here about YoloBox. This has been a long one, my friends. I hope that you've enjoyed it. I hope that you find this helpful. I hope that it's something that makes you money and grows your business. I hope that you fail fast so that you can get good quick. I would like for you to be more successful than me. I would love for you. There's so much room in this market. I could care less if you were right next door to me running a live stream business. If I liked you and we became friends, we'd probably partner up or do something. That's the reality. But I won't partner with anybody that doesn't have a standard at least as high as mine. And if you don't have a standard as high as I've outlined here, then it's a good place to start to create your own. Through all of this, I don't mean to say that my way is the right way. I mean to say, remember that this video is aimed at someone that doesn't know. So I'm giving you the salt of the earth experience that I've had through more than hundreds of live streams, through thousands of hours of use, and over a decade of experience. When you can match that, we can talk. And if you've got an idea ahead of time, a pro tip from me, I would love to hear them. Conversation is the way we move forwards. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And I will contact you guys if you contact me down in the comments below. Bye for now.